Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Thursday, June 6, 2024. It is the day of Jupiter. We have our new moon today. We are in the midst of Gemini season, the Celtic tree month of Hawthorn, deer season, and the Pluto retrograde. So today the sun is in Gemini, mutable air, representing communication. The moon begins the day fourth quarter Gemini, mutable air, representing adaptability. And then at 7:38 a.m. Central Time, we go into that new moon, which we'll talk a little bit more later. Mercury is in Gemini, mutable air, representing insight. Venus is in Gemini, mutable air, representing spendthrift. Mars is in Aries, cardinal fire, representing initiative. Jupiter is in Gemini, mutable air, representing questing. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable water, representing nostalgia. Uranus is in Taurus, fixed earth, representing renovation. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water, representing imagination. And Pluto is retrograde Aquarius, fixed air, meaning we need to examine intentions and remember the Pluto retrograde mantra of reflect, heal, and evolve. So, the new moon, it is the time to set intentions for the next moon cycle. As it is occurring in the Gemini moon, to keep in mind some of your dues, to do socialize, do network, do teach, but don't get trapped in confined spaces, do not engage in communication delays, do not get lost in mania. So today's new moon is centered in communication, and preferably this is, of course, productive communication, not people just blah, blah, blahing at each other in their face. So we're not talking about the kind of communication we see on social media, which doesn't amount to much more than people just blustering in hot air. We need to be, raise our standards a little bit, seek to accomplish something more than that. So make use of the new moon and of Jupiter's placement in Gemini to explore new ideas and seek improved understanding. This would be a good opportunity if you have been looking for a teacher or if you have been wanting to explore the idea of perhaps investigating some aspect of your path that you hadn't really looked at before, any new ideas that kind of caught your fancy but you haven't fully invested in. This is the time to really set that intention to explore these things, to try to grow in your practice, and to see where you can go with that from there. Now, for today's tarot, we have the Five of Scrolls, and the Five of Scrolls, the key word for that is sacrifice. Now, one question that popped in my mind when I saw this is what or who is important enough that you might forego going the easier path in order to achieve a higher good? What would really be worthwhile? Another thing with sacrifice I thought about, what about the sacrifice of perhaps of time or attention? What are you willing to let go of and say, I'm just not going to focus my energy on that right now. I'm not going to give this my attention. I'm not going to think about this. I'm not going to give this my time in favor of something that you think will ultimately provide something of greater benefit to you. It's something worth thinking about, especially because it's a new moon today. What do you need to let go of in order for you to achieve that next level in your spirituality? What kind of sacrifice is it? And can we perhaps give up um, things that don't really matter, things that are, time wasters, things that are distractions, things that perhaps we're just involved in because other people are involved in them, but it doesn't really mean anything to us. Maybe letting some of that go and focusing more intently on something that we need to be doing will be of greater benefit to us. Today's Celtic triad is three discontents of a husbandman, a lazy servant, a degenerate seed, and soil over rich. So, a lazy servant in modern terms, that would be a bad employee, someone who is just not willing to do the job. They're not going to do it well. They're not diligent. They are essentially not earning their keep. That is certainly an irritation to anyone, including to other employees around them. No one likes having to pick up the slack for the person who isn't doing their job, but for some reason never seems to get fired or even scolded for not performing their duties. It creates a bad feeling all the way around. And then degenerate seed. Now, to be degenerate is to have a very bad quality. It denotes impurities of some kind. And in the literal sense, a degenerate seed would be some kind of, actual seed that you might plant in the field or plant in your flower bed that just doesn't produce. It isn't going to do what it's supposed to do. It isn't a healthy seed. However, a degenerate seed that can also refer to, the fruit of one's loins, to put it delicately, someone's children who are of poor character, who do not make anything of their lives, who just kind of roll around and they go with whatever direction the wind happens to be blowing. They don't have any sense of integrity within themselves. And parents who have tried to raise their children conscientiously, or who realize that they made mistakes and they see the price that their children will ultimately pay for this, it is a source of considerable torment when they see that they have produced a degenerate seed. Because so often, once by the time you realize that something is a child has really gone the wrong way, I don't want to say it's too late to fix it, but the situation has gone beyond just parental correction, usually by that time, especially if the child has come of age, because at that point, it's their job to correct themselves. And they haven't really been set up for success in that regard. And again, all we have to do is look around us and we can see examples of this. It's a sad thing. The only thing that people can do is to try not to end up in that situation with their children. And if they are, to try to encourage them to go a different way. And that will also probably require owning up to some of your own personal failings, for them to say, I let you go this way and I was wrong. And I did not realize that until you were paying a bad price for it. So, not fun, but I mean, the only way we're going to improve any of the problems that are facing us is by beginning that corrective process, by beginning that healing process and owning our own part that we played in it. The last thing is soil over rich. So overabundance, indulgence, something that is, I don't know, that lends itself to sowing the seeds of greed. Something that is just beyond what it ought to be, something that almost spoils itself by having a bit too much. And that isn't a good thing either. Things need to be imbalanced, and sometimes having a lack isn't this terrible thing. Not even in the actual literal soil. So there's a lot to think about in this particular triad. Whether we're looking at it more literally or figuratively. Today's magical intention is empathy. The color is crimson. The plant is the red rose. The animal is the cat, and the crystal is the ruby. Now, I want to particularly address empaths here. Can you differentiate between your emotions and someone else's? I stress this question a lot because until someone who has strong empathic capabilities is able to do that, they're going to be in this kind of unhealthy spiral. A lot of the posts that I see about empaths on social media, it has to do with a lot of how they're suffering from their talent. You do not actually have to be suffering, certainly not all of the time. And one of the ways you do that is being able to tell what energies are coming into your system and what energies are emanating from your system, and learning the difference of those. I suppose we'll call them flavors, for lack of a better expression, the flavors of these different energies, and learning when to put up walls and shields and protection around yourself, when to let those things in, how to cleanse yourself. It is one thing to have a strong talent, but part of developing that talent and getting the most out of it is also by learning how to separate yourself from. You do not have to be the trash can of everyone else's random emotions. That does not have to be your fate, and you do not have to be in this constant whirlpool of just emotional distress. That does not have to be you. And if someone never undertakes the trouble and they seem to thrive in the drama of that, well, they at that point they really do deserve the suffering that they get, because it's not like there isn't information out there about shielding techniques, cleansing techniques, learning to tell the difference between what's going on with someone else and what's going on with yourself, learning how to set boundaries of various kinds. It isn't as though that there isn't information available for people to find. So especially if you find yourself caught in this whirlwind, you may need to ask yourself the question of, have you really taken the proper steps to safeguard your own well-being, or have you just allowed yourself to be, victimized by your gift? So perhaps not the funnest thing to self-reflect upon, but it's the new moon, so if you have personally struggled with this is a good time to set that intention to work on this, so that you are not to where things are not happening to you, to where you are deciding how to use your talents. So, also for pagan practice today, honor a hearth deity, as I always encourage on Thursdays. This is a good time to work on your throat chakra, to learn something about your Jupiter sign, do some magical cooking, and of course, perform a new moon ritual. And last for today, the journal prompt. What makes you feel ready for summer? And does your spiritual practice change in any way? For example, do you work with different deities? Is there anything about your spiritual routine that shifts with each season? Something to think about. And if things have been kind of the same, and if you feel a bit bored or like you're stagnating, this is a good opportunity to just kind of shake things up, change things, and perhaps tailor your practice to where it is more seasonally specific, especially for the season you're actually experiencing as it is happening to you locally. Uh, that might be a way to add to reinvigorate your practice. I'll put it that way. Tomorrow for the next edition. Let me know what you thought about this one in the comments below, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.